Chapter 10, Eggs. Like and subscribe. No, seriously though, I thought this was a pretty good episode. There's complaints, again, like usual with the show. People are saying that this show isn't going anywhere, and I'll push back a little bit on that because, especially later in the episode, this show proves that everything he does has consequences, and that's blatantly obvious later on. When he comes across the spider thing. People need to make up their minds because the sequel trilogy, everybody was annoyed with how they just rushed through everything, and there was not enough character development. The characters were very thin for the most part, and now they're complaining that the show is dragged out too much. Well, I think personally I would prefer having a dragged out show with more character development than a rushed trilogy with not enough. Anyway, this episode begins right where the last one left off. Mando is still on Tatooine with the baby, and they did what I didn't want them to do. They're making us wait for more Boba Fett, which I was afraid they would. I don't really know how I'm going to cover this episode. I'm still figuring out the format for this, so I'm probably just going to ramble through the episode going in chronological order. So Din Djarin and the child are on the run in Tatooine, and he gets freaking clotheslined. A bunch of bounty hunters or scavengers. I gotta say, it's nice to see a Nikto. Anytime we get original trilogy or prequel trilogy aliens in this show, I appreciate it because sometimes they throw in some sequel trilogy aliens in there. Like there's one in the scene that looks kind of like, I think it's the same species that Rey had a scene with in Force Awakens. It's just sometimes it looks out of place to me, and I like seeing the OG George Lucas era designs. So this dude's got Baby Yoda at knife point. He tries to barter for Din Djarin's jetpack. And we know he's not going to give up the jetpack. I mean, there's no way. He's a Mandalorian. So he pulls off an amazing kill. Like this was simultaneously brutal and hilarious when he lets him take the jetpack and then he turns it on and then just slams him back to the ground. That was pretty funny. Something I noticed in this episode, it sounds like the child is starting to make more complex sounds, like almost like cat purrs. And the best thing I can describe it as is Furby sounds. If any of you are old enough to remember Furbies, the way he talks sounds like a Furby. And then he calls the jetpack back to him, and it just like slowly flies back down to the ground. Like, is that a thing? Like, I know Star Wars doesn't always follow the laws of physics, but can that happen? Can that be done? By the way, shout out to the music in this episode. They had some really amazing remixes of the main theme. And you can see that he's still got Boba's helmet and jetpack, so we'll see where that goes. So he ends up going back to the cantina. I assume it's the one from the earlier episode and from A New Hope, and I forgot her name, but that lady's playing I think it's Sabak. I think they're playing Sabak, and there's this like giant ant thing that's clearly completely animatronic or a puppet. The first thing I thought of was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, of course. By the way, shout out to the puppeteers in this episode, or this show in general. The puppeteering is just flawless. Of course, I think the only reason why there was a giant ant in this episode was, well, look who directed it. Also, cooking meat with an engine? Really? Treadwell droid from A New Hope? One small skank in the scud pie. She really just said that. So Din Djarin has to travel and take this frog lady to where she can have her egg safely, but he has to go through sublight engine, and he can't go to hyperspace because I guess it'll hurt the eggs or something or damage them. But my question is, why was this frog lady on another planet like far away where she can safely have the eggs if she knew that traveling that far with hyperspace would damage them? Like, why is she there in the first place? They didn't explain. And on Tatooine, of all places, like, she's a frog. I'm pretty sure that Tatooine is not very hospitable for her kind, and if she's trying to keep her family line alive, then that seems like a pretty dumb decision to go there. I'm not gonna lie, when that lady was trying to talk to the frog lady in her dialect or whatever, it was a little cringe to me. I mean, you can kind of tell it's redubbed. So the first time we see Baby Yoda trying to grab those eggs, I noticed he seems to be using the Force more for things that aren't an emergency. Like the first time he does it in the show, I believe the first time was when he stopped the fire, right, in season 1, and he seemed to do it in like as a last ditch effort. Now he seems to be just using it kind of whenever he wants, so I think he might start becoming dangerous. So the New Republic pilots show back up. They were the ones from earlier in season 1 where he is at that base with those bounty hunters. That's one of my favorite parts of this show is seeing them flesh out the New Republic, because it's something we got basically nothing of in the sequel trilogy and just heard it mentioned. And I hope we don't only see X-Wings. I hope at some point we get to see A, B, and Y wings, because I assume at this point they probably have a lot of those still. And it would be nice to see them bring back the E-Wing and the K-Wing from the EU. But Dave Filoni's back. Good old Dave Filoni. And I gotta say, mustachioed Dave Filoni fits right in with the 70s era, like porn stashes that guys had in the 70s from A New Hope. But yeah, when they tell Din that that sector is under New Republic jurisdiction, it seems like their reach is spreading farther and farther with every passing day. So I really like to see more lore about the New Republic standing in the galaxy compared to everyone else. These guys don't screw around. Like, they go into attack position, and the next sequence, the chase sequence, is I think my favorite part of the episode. So Din does the thing where he shuts his engine off and just falls, and Rey did that in Force Awakens, but it's not something I think, as far as I know, I don't think we've seen it in any other Star Wars thing ever, like an episode of Clone Wars or a movie, except for Force Awakens and this episode. Like, I've never seen it. I don't know that much about physics. Is that even possible? Like, I get that he's in atmosphere, but wouldn't that just like destroy his ship? He ends up on some planet that looks kind of like Hoth or Ilum. They don't really specify where it is, and they have a classic trench run type chase. The child's eating more eggs. You would think the frog lady would like try to choke Baby Yoda out, or like just straight up kill him for eating basically her children. I do like that the child is eating food out of this weird tin that looks just like the food that Luke and Yoda were eating in Empire. I think it's like some kind of food rations. So something that annoys me in Star Wars is when they don't have a name for something that looks like, or specifically like creatures that look like things on Earth. So they just call them by their Earth name, because Earth doesn't exist in this galaxy. So when he says, "Sorry, lady, I don't speak frog," like, that's just weird to me, because they wouldn't know what a frog is in this galaxy. I think wouldn't they be called something else? It's the same problem I have in Empire Strikes Back, when there's just normal snakes on Dagobah. Like, are there really just normal snakes around, and are they called snakes? Stop using Earth names in Star Wars. I like the story parallel going on between Din protecting the child and the frog lady protecting her eggs. Did anyone else just find it a little convenient that this frog lady knew just how to rewire a droid and talk through it? Like, that seemed a little convenient for me. Yeah, in this scene she says there's only one planet they can survive on, and that brings me back to my previous question. Then why was she on Tatooine? So Din has thermal vision? Why have we seen that before? Like, that seems kind of just pulled out of nowhere. And if this frog lady is like a real frog, then I assume she's cold-blooded. So if it is thermal vision, why would we be seeing warm footprints? Unless it's not thermal vision, it just like detects irregularities in the ground or imprints in the snow. And why is he using them here? If last episode with the Krayt Dragon he used binoculars when he was passing them to the Tusken Raiders, and then also he's got his like telescope. So why, you'd think all those things would be built into his visor. None of these things ruin the show for me. They're just little nitpicks and kind of writing inconsistencies I've noticed. It is kind of weird that Din can just touch the eggs without damaging them, but then again, they are unfertilized and he's got gloves on. So I immediately recognize these spiders from the old Ralph McQuarrie art of that Dagobah spider. It's like a spider that turns into a tree called a gnarl tree. This whole scene was great. It reminded me of like Alien or Aliens or Mirkwood in Lord of the Rings, the Forbidden Forest spider scene in Harry Potter. Like, it was cool seeing basically a horror episode of Star Wars. So I really appreciate the frog lady being a puppet for most of the episode, and I love that they seamlessly transition into a CGI version of that frog when she starts hopping. That was really cool. Seriously, what was the budget on this season? Like, there's hundreds of CGI spiders, a giant CGI spider, a chase. Like, the budget must have been blown up to 11. So I kind of question Din's methods here. Why would he put 2 explosives on either side of the cave and then throw one underneath the ice where the spider is above it? Like, he basically let him in. Like, he blew an opening for it to fall into it. And then, I mean, you can see him. He's like, he kind of looks at it like, oh, oops. He should have just put one on either side of the cave and collapsed it inward and not put one under the thin ice where he could fall in. I do kind of think the show might be going too much into the monster of the week trope, because, like, what, this is 2 weeks in a row where we've had some kind of monster. Yeah, it's cool seeing monsters we haven't seen before in Star Wars, and there's plenty of them in Star Wars, but maybe spread them out more so it doesn't. I mean, how many have we had now? We had that weird walrus shark thing from, I think, the first episode. We had this, obviously, the crate dragon last episode. There's some I'm missing. Oh, the Mudhorn, of course. So I think every single time in the show they use a puppet so far, especially Baby Yoda, they've done an excellent job. And all the shots have looked great with it, except for the first time ever in the show, there was one shot that I thought the puppeteering was bad. And it's when the Frog Lady puts down Baby Yoda on the floor of the Razor Crest, and it just looks like Baby Yoda's on wheels rolling away. It looks pretty bad. Probably shouldn't have used that shot. Why'd this Frog Lady not use this gun earlier? Seriously, like, you could have been shooting the whole time you were running. So when they're taking off and the spider, like, right before it lands on them, I think that had the best version of the theme so far. I loved that rendition of the main theme of the show. Wait a minute, the spider fell from above? Hadn't it already fell into the cave after he collapsed it? I mean, maybe it went around and back up top. I don't know why. And of course, it waited a while to attack again, but, I mean, you can't fault the show for that. That's for dramatic tension, of course. They sure made spiderwebs quick in here, and what for? I love the reveal on you don't know who's helping them. Like, you keep hearing tons of shots outside, and just to see the two X-Wing pilots out there, I thought that was pretty cool. It's interesting how when he says, "Am I under arrest?" and then he says, "Technically you should be, but these are trying times." That's interesting to see the New Republic standing in the galaxy where, unlike the Empire, if they see that you've done something good and noble, then they will forgive you and they won't just arrest you out of turn. They aren't the brutal dictators that the Empire was. You can have redemption in the New Republic. Maybe they shouldn't have waited so long to check the history of his ship and look into this guy's background before they started chasing him and could have potentially got him killed from the crash. Probably should have done that first. There's like this cool hip-hop version of the theme too when they're taking off here, or when the X-Wings are taking off. It's really cool. Baby Yoda's just watching him weld. Like, what, are his eyes not susceptible to welder's flash? Maybe welder's flash isn't a thing in this universe. I don't know. Where's Baby Yoda been hiding this egg this whole time? And does he have any pockets? Is it like up his butt? He's like really hungry. He just keeps eating anything. He's becoming more and more disobedient, it seems, in the show, and I feel like that's leading somewhere. Like, he's gonna... Maybe he'll, like, tap into the dark side or something, or when he can't control his force use. I don't know what's going on with him. He asks the Frog Lady if you need to use the privy. That's another weird Earth phrase that I'm not sure why they keep doing that. So yeah, the Razor Crest in pretty dire straits. It's they're just limping away to the next planet. It was a pretty fun, like, side quest. Like, this show, I've heard it described as, like, almost like a video game or like a D&D campaign, which I could see that, because there's, like I said last time, there's one main quest, but he keeps stopping along the way on these little side quests, and I thought it was a fun, horror-themed little side quest that he went on. Here's hoping that next episode they get back to Boba Fett and the main quest again, because I do not want to wait anymore to see more Boba Fett. So, you got any lingering questions about this episode or the show? Let me know what you thought of it in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe if you want to hear me cover the rest of the episodes this season, and thank you for watching.